The Last Wish. The Last Wish is the first book in terms of chronology. However, the first book that was published by Andrzej Sapkowski was Sword of Destiny. The anthology consists of short stories within a story. The main story tells the reader how Geralt of Rivia got injured during the war and got sent to the Temple of Meritella led by the Archpriestess Ninique. She is the one helping Geralt of Rivia and aids him in his recovery. While he is recovering from his pain, he has flashbacks of recent events, each of which forms a story of its own. The first short story started after the first Voice of Reason. In the Voice of Reason, Geralt had sex with Aola, a priestess in the Temple of Melitele. The Witcher short story is what follows the Voice of Reason. A stranger went to a small tavern called the Fox. It was almost empty. What will it be? The innkeeper asked. Beer, said the stranger with an unpleasant voice. The stranger was not old, however, his hair was entirely white with a sword strapped to his back like a bow or a quiver. The stranger's accent was Rivian, which no one likes in that town. A fight happened in the tavern that led Geralt to kill 3 men. Later, guards rushed in to stop the fighting, taking the stranger away for interrogation. On their way, a sign signed by the King Foltest himself offered 3,000 ornans for a Striga contract. Valorad, the Castellan, saw that the stranger carried the Witcher's emblem. Any name will do, it's simply to make conversation easier, Valorad prompted. My name is Geralt of Rivia, the stranger answered. There was a way to remove the spell on the Striga, transfigure her into Foltest's little daughter. Someone had to stay in her crib throughout the night until the 3rd crowing of a cock. A task easier said than done. Geralt agreed to lift the curse of the Striga and take the 3,000 ornans. The Striga is already 14 years old. Geralt meets with Foltest and gained information about the Striga. She moved with incredible speed and is far powerful for her height and build than one would expect. She only ventures out during the full moon. Geralt prepared his potions and mutagens for fighting the Striga. Those ingredients sharpened his hearing beyond measure. The mixture enables him to see in the deepest darkness, and his movement and reactions became faster. A man silently came. He bribed Geralt with 1,000 ornans to leave the place and leave the Striga alone so that Foltest's throne becomes vulnerable. Geralt hesitates, then Ostrit, the man, drew his sword. Geralt hit him in the temple, left the man unconscious. When he gained consciousness, he was tied up and used as bait for the Witcher. Ostrit was Ada's lover, the old queen, King Foltest's sister. When he saw the incestuous relationship between the king and his sister, he cursed the king, leading to the born of the Striga. Geralt untied Ostrit, then the man ran away clumsily until suddenly a terrible, quivering, frenzied scream tore the night, shook the old walls, continued raising and falling, vibrating from Ostrit's direction. It turned out that the Striga caught up with the man too quickly. Geralt saw the Striga. The description given by Foltest and his men about the Striga was accurate. The disproportionately large head sat on a short neck surrounded by a tangled, curly halo of reddish hair. She attacked, but Geralt dodged her attacks with swift pirouettes. Then he dealt a hard blow to the side of her head with a silver spike, stunning the knuckles of his gauntlet. The Striga fell to the ground, froze, and started to howl. The Striga attacked again, but the Witcher's movement distracted her. Later, Geralt threw a strong silver chain at the Striga. As we all know, silver was fatal for the Striga, as it was for most monsters. The chain snapped, but Geralt used the sign of Ard in front of him. The Striga fell back, but she did not get paralyzed. She overcame the sign effortlessly and got back in the fighting. Geralt finally used his silver sword to scare the Striga. At the right time, Geralt went to the Striga's crypt, drank the third vial from beneath his tunic, climbed into the tomb, and stretched out in it. He pulled the cover closed when he heard her roar again. The crypt was for two, Ada and the Striga. Geralt reached the sign of Yarden on the inside of the slab until he stopped hearing her scream. The lifting began to work. After some time, Geralt got out and saw her. He reached for her while she was unconscious. Too late. She opened her eyes and swiped him across his neck with her talons, cutting him deeply. He fell on her and grabbed her by the wrist until he heard the voice of a 14-year-old girl crying. He let her go when she stopped moving. He succeeded and fainted. Geralt got up 2 days later, bandaged from Velorad. He kept his silver sword, his trunk, and the 3,000 orange safe for him. The princess is safe. A grain of truth. One of the most intense and sorrowful stories that I liked in the book was the story of Nivellen. It came after the second voice of reason, where Ninique wakes Geralt and Iola up and started bandaging him. Nivellen is a cursed human that turned into a monstrosity, though his mind and personality did not change. His father was a gang leader who leads his men to steal from the locals. One day, he died in battle. His son Nivellen inherited his deeds. He joined the gang willingly due to his adolescence. Unfortunately, the band led him to his misery and curse Shay by coercing him to rape a young priestess. After a while, Nivellen turned from his human form to a monstrous abomination. Nivellen recalled the fairy tale from his childhood. A cursed prince that turned into a frog and transformed back to his human form through true love. Undoubtedly, Nivellen has done the same. The first encounter happened when a merchant and his daughter came to steal from his property. The cursed human had a deal with the merchant. He would let him live in exchange for his daughter. The merchant agreed to that. In 12 years' time, Neville met 6 females. The last one is Verena. With the help of Geralt and his Witcher senses, they found out that Verena is a Broxa, a vampire type, and she wanted to kill Neville. At the end of the story, Geralt and Neville fought the Broxa. Verena used telepathy to say to Neville that she loves him before cutting his throat. However, Geralt reacted, beheaded her first, and saved Neville. Eventually, the death of Verena lifted the curse. The third story, The Lesser Evil, came after the third voice of reason, where knights from the Order of the White Rose visited the temple and demanded that Geralt, the Butcher of Blaviken, leaves the temple for justice. Nanique refuses, and they left with a promise to return. In this short story, Geralt went to Blaviken, holding a Kikimora in his horse, Roach, asking for a reward. He met Caldemain, the alderman of this town, Geralt's friend. Unfortunately, he has no funds to spare, but he told him to visit their town wizard, Master Irian. He could need the Kikimora and give Geralt his deserved reward. Geralt and his friend went to the tower where Irian lives. The wizard refuses the others' invitation, but only the Witcher. He entered the tower. It turns out that Master Irian is dead and Stregobor replaced him, a sorcerer that Geralt met a while ago. He doesn't need the Kikimora, but he offered him another mission. A lesser evil, Stregobor said. He needs the Witcher to kill a woman born in an eclipse, the curse of the Black Sun, they called. Evil is evil. Lesser, greater, middling, makes no difference.
Can't fit me! Bring her down. Do it my way.
You like that, you bitch?
Get the hammer. Kick her teeth in.
The degree is arbitrary, the definition's blurred. If I'm to choose between one evil and another, I'd rather not choose at all.
Just make it quick, Geralt. What the?
Close your eyes.
Hit him!
What are you doing?
Killing monsters.
Meanwhile, Renfri, the cursed woman, and her thugs entered Blaviken. Geralt met with her at an inn. She also restated the lesser evil is by killing Stregobor, which she refused. She presented the Tridem Ultimatum, in which she will hold a number of people as hostages until Stregobor shows himself or the people die. Geralt did not understand what's this kind of ultimatum, and Renfri refused to give the details. Caldemain ordered Renfri to leave the town at dawn. She lied to the Witcher and told him that she will leave the town and Stregobor alone. The next day, Caldemain spoke to the Witcher about the massacre at Tridem. Then Geralt recognized what was the ultimatum. Renfri deceived him and went to massacre the people at the inn. Geralt went on quickly to save the people. Kivril, the half-elf, one of Renfri's thugs, shot a crossbow at Geralt. He deflected it. Tavik then went to attack, but he received a hard blow just above his hip. The twins went on fighting Geralt. They mistimed their attack and collided with each other. 15 attacked, but he bore a thrust through his stomach. Kivril and Nohorn attacked. Kivril leaped aside and tripped, catching himself against a stool as Nohorn warded off a blow so powerful it threw him back to his knees. Later, Renfri entered the marketplace. She approached slowly to Geralt. The fighting happened to lead to the death of Renfri. Stregobor wanted to do an autopsy on Renfri to prove that the curse is real. "Don't touch her," Geralt said. The crowd began throwing stones at Geralt, but he was protected by the Queen's sign. He waited until Caldermain ordered them to stop and ordered Geralt to leave and never come back. The memorable story that leads to the other books is the story A Question of Price. It started after the fourth Voice of Reason, in which Geralt and Iola talked about witches and destiny. In this story, Geralt got invited to Sintra and told that the Queen wants him to ensure that Skellige gets united with Sintra, and that is a witcher's job. Geralt sat near the Queen as an honorable guest. The real reason is that the Queen has a daughter with powerful abilities that could cause destruction, and that a witcher will be helpful in such situations. Pavetta, the Queen's daughter, has turned 15. As tradition goes, contenders came to ask for her marriage. Suddenly, a strange knight entered the hall and was wearing a helmet, asking to claim what is to be his child's prize. Pavetta agreed. However, when they removed his helmet, he was looking like a hedgehog. Therefore, the Queen wanted to appeal the law of surprise and convict Destiny. A fight happened, but Geralt was standing with the hedgehog. Geralt and the druid had felt a force that appeared from the beginning of the feast. The force has been released from Pavetta to save her beloved hedgehog, but ruined the castle. Geralt focused on the Witcher senses and stopped the destruction. After the hedgehog got saved, Geralt resigned the law of surprise and asked for what they have but do not know, surprising everyone that Pavetta is already pregnant. The fifth short story came after the fifth Voice of Reason, where Dandelion, Geralt's faithful friend, visited the temple and asked him if he remembers the events at the edge of the world. Geralt and Dandelion went to a town asking for a witch's job. All they heard from the locals is nothing more than superstition. They continued on the road to the edge of the world until they found a villager called Netley, saying there's indeed a work for a witcher. Don, the elder of the village they reached, told the witcher and his dear friend of a devil prowling about. They went through the marshes searching for the devil. The strangest creature Geralt had ever seen emerged from the thicket. The creature was about half a rod tall, with bulging eyes and a goat's horns and beard. He began throwing iron balls at Geralt and his troubadour, leading his victory. The silence fell until the villagers came with an old book. They gave Geralt the book. It has turned out that the devil is called Sylvan from the book. Geralt refuses to kill a rare and intelligent creature, but he will try to cast him away from the villagers. While Geralt was searching for the Sylvan, he showed himself up. Geralt wanted to chat with him about getting him out of the village. He threw an iron ball into the Sylvan. The creature collapsed, then he grabbed him by one shaggy leg. The Sylvan started beating and kicking. The next few minutes passed in an intense skirmish and exchange of insults and kicks. Suddenly, someone threw himself at him and pinned Geralt to the ground. All of a sudden, pain and darkness fell on Geralt. He gained consciousness, tied up by a pine tree. Geralt cursed. In the middle of the glade stood the Sylvan, as he now knows, the sweet name of Torque, from a conversation between him and Galar before Geralt gained consciousness. Galar was an elf, a pure-blooded Ainshey as of the rest of his crew except the Sylvan. The elves began hitting a tied-up, motionless target. One elf was going to kill the Witcher until a white-haired elf came. "I am Fylvander Infidel." He started talking about how he hates humans because they deprived their life. With a command from Fylvander, everyone raised their bows against the two tied-up Geralt and his bard, ready to kill them. Fortunately, the Sylvan sheltered them, not allowing this because that's not what they agreed on. one pace from shooting the arrows, until the Queen of the Fields entered the cove. The elves knelt, slowly, reluctantly, fell on their knees one after the other, and bowed their heads low in veneration. She communicated telepathically with the Sylvan, ordering him to release Geralt and his bard. The story ends up with Geralt, Dandelion, and the Sylvan around the campfire. Geralt began reading the book that they discovered the Sylvan in it, who read about the Queen of the Fields out loud. Later, they slept. Entitled after the book, The Last Wish is the last short story. It came after the sixth Voice of Reason, where Geralt wanted to leave the temple and continue on his trial, but he was still unhealthy. Unique was chatting with him about Yennefer until she asked about how he met her. Geralt and Dandelion were trying to catch a catfish until they caught a chipped stoneware jar. The Witcher wanted to take the jar away from the bard because it had a seal. It fell on the sand during the scuffle, and luminous red smoke burst forth. The smoke pulsated and collected in an irregular sphere level with Dandelion's eyes. The bard began to wish his 3 wishes until 2 monstrous paws emerged from the horrible head and grabbed Dandelion by his throat. Geralt swiped his silver sword and slashed it through the middle. The paws grew larger and crushed Dandelion into the ground. The Witcher used his heart sign into the djinn, then the djinn flew away over the water. There was a broken seal near Dandelion's body. The monster attacked. Geralt squeezed the seal in his fist and screamed out the words of an exorcism a priestess had once taught him. It worked. The djinn disappeared into the distance. Geralt went to check on Dandelion, but he was sick and vomiting blood. The Witcher needed to go to a magician. A magical remedy or a curative spell is required to heal the bard from the djinn's curse. There is a close sorceress around with the name of Yennefer of Vengerberg. The Witcher went to the doorman that is protecting Yennefer. The doorman was taller by a head and twice as broad in the shoulders. Geralt blew him with a purse 3 times. The heavy purse stuck him in the temple. He fetched him another blow. The man was almost unconscious. Geralt walloped him with force for the 3rd time, right on the crown of his head. Money, he muttered, opens all doors. A scent of lilac and gooseberries appeared. As he approaches, the scent grew stronger. A pale, triangular face, violet eyes, and narrow, slightly contorted lips appeared beneath the black tresses. She raised a spell that threw Geralt on the floor. "No need," he shouted, seeing the woman raise her hand again. "Lady Yennefer, I came in peace, with no evil intentions. Tell me who you are," she asked. "I'm Geralt of Rivia, a Witcher." He asked for her help in curing Dandelion. Geralt explained to her what happened to the bard, the regeneration of organs endured through magic, the throat, larynx, and vocal cords. She wanted to take a bath before curing the bard and told Geralt to take it too. After that, she began curing Dandelion. "Your talented friend will be well," she said to Geralt. The poet was breathing peacefully. He didn't wheeze or rasp anymore. There were patterns traced on the floor like a ritual. Geralt examined them. It was a trap from Yennefer. She trapped him in the sphere to get what she wanted from Dandelion without interruption. She searched for the broken seal from the djinn. She didn't find it with Dandelion, so she knew that Geralt had it. He gave her the seal as a token of his gratitude. However, she also wanted to keep the bard with her to draw the djinn. Geralt refused. She paralyzed him with magic, then controlled his mind using telepathy and led him to the dungeon. Before that, she let him perform crimes that could lead him to jail in a legal way. A bald guard came. He ordered the guards to grab Geralt, hold him up, and pressed him against the wall. The bald guard stood in front of the Witcher, pulled his sleeves up, and dropped his fist. He began punching Geralt. As he was hitting the Witcher, He was taunting him if he had any wishes before he dies. Just one, warned the Witcher, raising his head with difficulty. That you birthed, you son of a whore.
Last words, Witcher. Makes them good.
I want you to burst, you son of a whore.
The guard suddenly gobbled like a turkey, grew red, grabbed his stomach with both hands, howled, roared with pain, and burst. After a time, a luminous rectangle appeared. Something flashed and Dandelion landed in the middle of the town hall, yelling, "Innocent! Innocent! The Witcher is innocent! I wish you to believe it!" She caught the djinn. He's destroying the town. The mayor forgave the Witcher from the dungeon, needing his help in protecting the city. The portal where Dandelion appeared from has a trace. Geralt used this trace to go back to Yennefer. He saw her. Geralt wanted to help her and save her from the djinn after fulfilling Dandelion's third wish. Geralt threw himself towards her, pushed her aside, and sheltered her. She made a portal for Geralt to escape, but he pulled her with him. They were lying in the very center of a ballroom. She yelled at Geralt, "You moron! You bloody idiot! You stopped me! I nearly had him!" He also yelled, "I saved your life, you stupid witch!" She slapped the Witcher in the ear with her open palm, kicked him forcefully in the shin, and jumped into the fading portal again. Geralt threw himself after her. The sorcerer and the Witcher were fighting. As they were fighting, she knew that Geralt has his last wish. That's why she can't control the djinn. She wanted him to express his last wish as soon as possible. After careful thinking, the Witcher suddenly understood what it was he wanted, and he made his last wish. The djinn soared into the sky and vanished. He became free, not tied up to anyone. They lay in a completely clear place. Not one plank or one brick fell on them. Yennefer, slightly flushed, knelt by Geralt, resting her hands on her knees, asking the Witcher if he is still alive. He was alive. She heard Geralt's last wish and asked what made him do it. Why her? He condemned himself to her. They started to make love. So his first wish was the incantation he used to get the djinn off of Dandelion. The second wish is to let the man burst in the dungeon, and his last wish is to condemn himself with Yennefer. And now we can end the summary with the last voice of reason, the seventh voice of reason. Geralt and Dandelion were on the road after they left the temple of Melitele. Suddenly, a knight of the White Rose and a dwarf appeared. The knight ordered Geralt for a duel that he should make against a fellow whom he insulted. And he can't refuse, because if he does, he will be hanged. However, if he also defeated Talus, the fellow, he will get hanged. He needs to lose and injure himself against the fellow. Geralt agreed to fight Talus. The fight has begun. The Witcher struck with the speed and force of a lightning bolt, extending his arm to its full length and slashing straight ahead. The heavy sword thundered against Talia's blade, deflecting it so hard it hit the knight in the face. He fell on his knees, touched his grass with his forehead. Falwick, the knight of the White Rose, ordered the guards to take Geralt. Dennis Cranmer refused and ordered the guards to stand still. He was following the order. Dennis Cranmer was the dwarf. The Witcher did not touch Talus. The kid hit himself with his own iron. His hard luck. Geralt took Dandelion and left. They made a brief stop back at the temple. Ninik and Ayola restocked Geralt's elixirs and gave them to him. Ninik begs Geralt to stay, but he left.